And those experiments were done early on. And then some of these other topics you'll see as we address these. Let's look at this dust. We all saw the enormous dust clouds generated as the World Trade Center buildings were brought down one way or the other. The dust was tested by scientists immediately to determine the degree of danger. Greg Swayze of the United States Geological Survey wrote, "Tests revealed the dust to be extremely alkaline, a pH of 12.1. Some of it was as caustic as liquid drain cleaner." Now, you wouldn't want to drink liquid drain cleaner, say the least. But you can imagine this dust, as it hits the moisture in your lungs and nose, it becomes this extremely caustic fluid. It was obvious that precautions had to be taken to protect the workers and people. So, you see, this dust was deemed by scientists immediately through experiments to be extremely dangerous. It also contained asbestos and some other nasty stuff like mercury from all the fluorescent bulbs that shattered and contributed to the dust, you see. These results were sent to the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, in the United States. However, the EPA issued 5 news releases within 10 days of the attacks, 9/11, 4 more by the end of 2001. All of these reassured the public about air quality. But nevertheless, even though they were reassured, respiratory ailments began to surface in hundreds because you cannot deny the facts. This dust is extremely hazardous and it was hurting people. Now, why would the EPA issue reassurances about the dust when it was in fact extremely dangerous? You might ask yourself that question. A BBC News report noted that the number of people with medical problems, primarily from the dust, has risen to at least 15,000. It is expected that more people will die prematurely than were killed on 9/11. So this is a very serious concern, this terrible dust. Now here's what happened. As you see down towards the middle of the slide, a report was issued by EPA Inspector General Nikki Tinsley. She studied what happened, and this came out in the summer of 2003. And here's what happened, reading now at the top. At the White House's direction, this is the Bush-Cheney administration, the EPA gave New Yorkers misleading assurances that there was no health risk from the debris-laden air after the World Trade Center collapse. According to this internal inquiry, she's doing her job. The White House convinced EPA to add reassuring statements and delete cautionary ones. Now, how would you feel reading this and you breathed this dust? You dutifully went back to work. As you remember, the Bush-Cheney administration encouraged people to do, particularly in the financial districts. Let's get back to work. And yet this dust was in fact exceedingly dangerous. Read a little more about this. This is from the Downtown Express newspaper as this report came out. This is from Jane in New York City, New York. It was much more important to open up Wall Street than it was to worry about our health, said former city councilperson Catherine Freed. We've known it was a cover-up since the beginning, Jane said. And so you have people aware finally of the government having lied to them. I mention this in part to help you understand that here is a clear example, irrefutable I believe, of the government of the United States lying to its own people. Now you might ask yourself, is it serious? Well, it's serious to the 15,000 who are impaired because of breathing this dust when they were told it was safe, and it was not. Not at all. Now, what happened to Nikki Tinsley, this Inspector General for the EPA, as she showed how the White House had covered up the truth? They sacked her. And now to lighten the mood just a little bit, I put in a cartoon that shows the nature of pseudoscience or bad science. So here's this ancient scientist, and in the first frame he says, after years of relentless study, laborious research, innumerable calculations. I have hereby ascertained that. He's working on his peer-reviewed paper, or to be peer-reviewed. No two snowflakes, oops, here comes two snowflakes, and they look just alike. So what does he do? Destroys the evidence, and then he says, no two snowflakes are alike. This is considered to be not just a no-no in science, it is considered to be the worst offense you can make, I think, to destroy evidence. And in this case of the dust, what the administration, the Bush-Cheney administration did is not only did they destroy or hide the evidence about the danger of the dust, they falsified it. They turned it upside down and said, oh, it's safe, go back to work, you see. Now, as we look at this toxic dust incident, what does it tell us about the values? Truth. The scientists were outspoken, several of them, including this Greg Swayze, warning people about the true dangers of the dust despite what the government was saying. Caring for others was certainly absent on the part of the government, and the long-term effects, which that's one thing. It took a long time for these ailments to, well, for most people, it took a long time for the ailments to show up. Actually, for some, it was right away. By the way, these characteristics, these values, truth, caring for others, and considering long-term effects, I find in what's called the 9/11 truth community, as we seek the truth and we care for others and try to share. And think about the long-term effects of 9/11 and of ignoring 9/11. Now I want to shift to the next topic, the question of put options. Quoting from the Bloomberg News, trading in so-called put options, which rise in value when stock prices fall. Let's pause there. If you're not familiar with too much with a put option, a normal stock, when you buy it, you hope it will go up, right? And then you can sell it for a profit. With a put, the idea is that you're betting the stock will go down. If it goes down, you make money. See, it's just another way of investing in the stock market using put options. So they rise in value when the stocks fall. Now here's what happened. The two airlines involved in the 9/11 attacks, their stocks went down. This is United Airlines, UAL, and American Airlines. Their stocks went down dramatically. And what is reported here in Bloomberg News is that trading in these put options surged as much as 285 times the previous average value in the days before 9/11. About 6 days before 9/11, this trading started in United and American. An article by Don Radlauer, he notes that no similar trading in other airlines occurred on the Chicago Exchange in the days immediately preceding Black Tuesday. Now, doesn't that make you wonder, how did people know to buy put options, which would make money when the stock goes down, in these two airlines that were involved in the 9/11 attacks, and only those two airlines? Doesn't that raise your suspicion level just a bit? I hope it does. These people are making money on other people's deaths. It just boggles my mind. I hope you understand that we have values amongst us that are much higher than just making money, for heaven's sakes. BBC, 18th of September, so a week after the 9/11 event, American authorities are investigating unusually large numbers of shares in airlines, United and American, insurance companies, specifically those which insured the World Trade Center, and arms manufacturers. They believe the sales were by people who knew about the impending disaster and were profiting from it. Can you imagine? Bloomberg News again. This would be the most extraordinary coincidence in the history of mankind if it was a coincidence. I hope you're not that gullible. 285 times surge in United and American, and it's just a coincidence. Come on, please. This could very well be insider trading at the worst, most horrific, most evil use you've ever seen in your entire life. He expresses it well. It's absolutely unprecedented. The amount was estimated by Andreas von Bülow at $15 billion in these trades. This problem, this very suspicious, unusual activity in the stock market was covered in a peer-reviewed paper, which I think has not been mentioned too much before. Professor Alan Peteshman, I've emailed to him, and he stands by his conclusions, of course. And I have not seen any challenge to his peer-reviewed paper. I'll read the last sentence. Consequently, the paper concludes that there is evidence of unusual option market activity, these are these put options, in the days leading up to September 11th that is consistent with investors trading on advanced knowledge of the attacks. I don't see how you can say otherwise. Now, this could not very well be ignored by the 9/11 Commission. They have to deal with this. It's in a peer-reviewed paper and in the media. So what did they say? Quoting now from page 499, a footnote. They sort of buried it deep in the book in a footnote, but they do talk about it. Here we go. Highly publicized allegations of insider trading in advance of 9/11 generally rest on reports of unusual pre-9/11 trading activity in companies whose stocks plummeted after the attacks, namely United and American. Some unusual trading did in fact occur. I'm glad they didn't try to deny it this time. It's so obvious. But hold on. Each trade proved to have an innocuous explanation. How could that be? With no conceivable ties to Al-Qaeda. So what's the problem? People are making a little money. It's not Al-Qaeda. It's innocuous. Can you see this, what they're doing? They have the blinders on so firmly that even though people are profiting from other people's deaths, thousands, it's innocuous because they're not tied to Al-Qaeda. Now, look, folks, what I'm trying to say here, students, is that it's not just Al-Qaeda, obviously. These put options were not made, they did that. They checked. Oh, it's not Al-Qaeda. Well, we won't worry about it. Come on. Who was it? Who is making money on other people's deaths? And that's my argument here as I've studied the events of 9/11 and the physics phenomena as well, as we'll discuss shortly, is that there's something else going on here, much more sinister and hidden, but besides Al-Qaeda. And the official conspiracy theory, it is a conspiracy theory, right? These 18 hijackers didn't act individually and separately. They conspired. That's a conspiracy theory. It's the official one from the United States government, the same ones who lied about the dust, okay, telling us that it's just Al-Qaeda. Don't look behind the curtain for anyone else. It's just Al-Qaeda. Don't look for the man behind the curtain. And as long as we just keep focused, it's only Al-Qaeda, then we can go fight them, preemptively in Afghanistan and Iraq and next, who knows, Iran. They'll come up with some excuse. I'm not trying to be facetious here. I'm just saying that it's incredible to me that the 9/11 Commission can look at these data and say it's innocuous if it's not Al-Qaeda. Incredible. There has to be some level of decency within us that cries out that this is unjust and unfair. And you don't have to be a scientist or a non-scientist to feel this way. If you care about people, you care about what happened on 9/11 and these 9/11 wars that have been excused on the basis of the official story that it's only Al-Qaeda. Huh? Now, for foreknowledge, we have in the newspapers and media shown at the bottom of the slide, Der Spiegel, Die Zeit,